Hello, I'm Jamie with Guitarist Magazine, and some of you who regularly watch the channel will have seen our Ultimate Les Paul Shootout that we did with Chris Buck a few weeks ago, and we've decided by popular demand to come and do the same thing except with Strats. And to help us do our grand Ultimate Strat Shootout, I've got with me here Neville Martin and Richard Barrett of Guitarist's Own Tone Lounge, and many years of professional guitar experience between them, and good friend to Guitarist Aynsley Lister, a wonderful player whose playing we've admired for a long time. Fabulous singer-songwriter and blues guitarist as well. So many more things, but Aynsley's very happy to have him here today with us. And we're going to throw into the ring together everything from relatively modest player series entry-level Strats from Fender's current range, all the way through to the Holy Grail guitars of the early 50s, or sorry, I should say mid 50s and early 60s. We've got original ones here. None of them are museum condition, but the ones that we've picked out are known for being good sounding ones. The owners have kind of given us the ones that they reckon stand a really good chance of sounding at our absolute best in the shootout. So how we're going to do it is we've put all the names of the guitars. We've got 10 guitars, new and old. We've put them all into here, purple top hat of tone, and we're going to select them at random and pair them up and have at it, and may the best Strat win. So without further ado, let's crack on with it. Okay, so let's go to our honoured guest Aynsley to pick the first guitar to get into the ring today.
I've got two there. Right, okay, 70th anniversary Strat, Mexican, oh sorry, hang on, I haven't got my readers on. American Pro 2 Comet Burst.
Yes. Okay. Great. Nev, would you like to?
I would
pick the other contender for this first matchup.
1961 Daphne Blue Refin.
Wow. Okay. Game on. 70th anniversary versus original 61. That's quite an interesting first match. So let's have at it.
It does sound great.
It's very warm. It's a real, I don't know, trying to find the right words, like woody. It's got like a real like
plummy. It's plummy, woody. All
acoustically,
yeah.
I mean, we should have a listen to it acoustically as well in a minute, because that translates so well. It doesn't always happen, does it? But what I was hearing when you were tuning up and just getting ready to play.
Yeah. It's I mean, if I do that, so you know, I don't know how well this will come across, but. It's got like a thickness.
Yeah, some guitars seem to hold the sound in.
Well, this one.
Yeah.
It much sort of snappier, though. When you went to the kind of bridge and middle there, it wasn't lacking any sparkle, was it?
No, it's definitely, it's got loads of air around it, it's got loads of clarity, but it's just got like a warmth. It's just very musical.
And every setting sounded nice.
So the bridge pickup was nice. I thought,
Yeah.
right, what will this
Yeah.
be like when I saw
Yeah.
you reaching for it? But it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that comes up a lot actually with really nice guitars, especially really nice examples of vintage ones. This idea of treble that doesn't hurt, that cuts through but doesn't make your ears go,
Yeah.
And I think we even noticed that with the Les Pauls we did in the shootout, is that the trebles are sweet. The notes are clearly defined, but they're not clinical or anything like that. I mean, that's a great one to start with in a way, and it sets the bar very high because that is kind of the quintessential.
It does.
Strat
It's like,
sound,
that's
isn't
a
it?
good Strat. Right. Now, how are the others?
Nicely balanced and not too much of anything, but all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could walk away with that straight away.
Not
without even
not
trying
before I
any-
do.
any of the
I'm
others.
holding it
Yeah,
now, so
I know.
I'm closer to the door.
So then is it 9/10 of the law?
Yeah, that's a great Strat.
Yeah.
Really
And I
nice.
noticed that, well, we all did, didn't we? That the magnet stagger. I don't know if that's because someone's pushed them in. They're not as. You buy a vintage stagger set now, and it's really staggered,
Oh,
isn't
it's
it?
quite
They're
abrupt,
quite
isn't it? Yeah,
flat.
these on the bridge pickup, it's almost version on flat, completely flat.
Yeah.
And then these two, it's a very steady, very subtle. But like I say, on some of the more modern Strats,
Like the B string's way down, and the G
yeah.
and G. The B string seems almost flush on those.
I mean, the way this is set as well, it's like the pickups, and when you pick up sort of newer guitars that have been freshly set up, they're all quite uniformly set. But they're all the height of the pickups where they're all slightly all over the shop actually.
Guys, how do you like your pickups, your Strat pickups to be on going through all three of them? Nev, how do you do
I've
yours?
always done it. I mean, they both commented how high my pickups are. I always stagger my pickups so the bass side's down and the treble side's up. And I usually kind of tune it to my own ears, my liking. And I like the top strings to be pretty close to the pickups. And obviously, if on your bass pickup, if your bass side of your bridge, your neck pickup is too high, you'll get the wolf notes because the pickup's sucked into the magnetic field of the pickup.
Yeah, you get that kind of.
So you
false-
get a kind of slightly out of tuneness at the 12th fret. So that's how I do mine.
Well, actually, this might be a good moment. Nev, since you're sat there right there next to Aynsley, you've owned a few vintage Strats over the years. Do you want to have a quick go on that and give us your thoughts on that as well?
Oh wait, on this?
Yes, on this one here.
Definitely have a go.
Well,
I did. Do you mind popping the volume pedal on? Thanks.
I did play it a few minutes ago before we started, and it immediately felt right. It's got, I said, the neck's exactly like Gary Moore's old 61. There, it's exactly the same as I remember Gary's. That kind of slightly slimmer feel there.
Well, this is something we've said many times over the years. Even like nice custom shop Strats will tend to have a kind of volute or a modern
they
volute.
do.
Yeah,
and this doesn't at all.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
If you look at Richard's ones, they probably
Well,
can't
yeah,
see very
yeah,
clearly. Today they're quite clearly defined, aren't they? It's a
Yeah.
real
No,
sculpted
That's a good
edge.
angle
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, sometimes they look like they've just come straight off the milling machine,
Yeah.
and nobody's done a bit of fine sanding on it, which
Yeah.
this clearly
Yeah.
has.
Well, it was a Friday, you see.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's got real clarity to it, hasn't it?
It does.
It's really clear.
Each setting seems to be the ideal. Really.
Exactly. I mean, I loved it when Aynsley put it in the middle there.
I mean, it's funny. I think personally, the bridge pickup is the real litmus test of the how good a Strat is, because if that doesn't sound shrill and
Yeah.
it sounds like it's really musical,
Yeah.
you're onto something.
Yeah.
Anything else you can work with.
Yeah, that's right.
Did I knock that knob off, or was it already off?
No, that was already off.
No, I was on there. Oh.
Yeah.
Let's hope so anyway. Otherwise we'll all be mortgaging our houses. Should we chuck on a little bit of drive?
Okay.
I've got a Klon Archer Select.
Why
Klon
don't I give
clone.
it to Richard?
Yeah.
Because
do you want to have? Yeah, you have.
I'd
He's
love to have a
driving.
go
Do
on
you
wanna-
it,
do you wanna do the
yeah.
driving?
Can I swap for the?
We'll come to that one in a moment.
Got a bit of drive. Well, this is a 45.
That's the JCM 45. Gives a little tickle.
Ooh, right. I'm sat close to it, so I'll hum a bit. Wow. Oh, that's stiff, actually. That's a good quality switch. It's a nice action, I think. It's almost not enough brightness on the amp now with that. Now, is there a treble on here?
Yeah, there is on the...
there we go.
Yeah.
I might just see what... I feel that bottom E has got a real Telecaster-y sort of vibe to it, hasn't it?
That, yeah, like a nice
which I love.
Telly.
Yeah.
Sounds absolutely belting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A quick word on signal chain here. We've got some few pedals here which are kind of just good everyday type pedals that a lot of people might use. We've got a Klon style Archer Select by J Rocket. We've got a Caliber 45 overdrive, which is a JTM 45 style overdrive, which Richard was just using there, also by J Rocket. We've got a Free the Tone Ambi-Space reverb, which is set to a very light spring reverb at the moment, I think. We've got a Crazy Tube Circuits time delay there, which is just a nice analogy sounding digital delay. That's not an oxymoron. And a Boss TR2 tremolo there, which we may use or not. Boss Orange OR30 amp over there for those 70s British tones. And just because we're playing Fenders and we should have a Fender sound on hand to try, we've got a Fender-like sound amp sound to try. We've got a Super Pro Delta 12 there, which it's not a Fender obviously, but it does do that nice kind of splashy, tweedy sort of sound quite nicely. So we'll bring that in here and there as well. Okay, I think we'll just we've had a good listen to that one. I think it's time to have a go at the other contender, which is the American Pro 2 70th anniversary. Okay, so we've tried the old and the classic, and we're on to the newest guitar here, which is the 70th anniversary American Pro 2. It's got V-Mod 2 pickups. It's got some nice switching options, which allow you to bring the neck pickup in on some of the traditionally bridge-only positions and so on. So Rich is going to give it a quick play, just as Aynsley did with the Daphne Blue, and we'll hear how it sounds.
And that's the add in the neck pickup.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, I like it more than I thought I would, having heard the acoustic tones.
Yeah. I think what my immediate observation is when you think about American country on the radio, American country music today, with that almost virtuosic guitar that you hear on those big country songs, they're almost rock songs these days.
Yeah.
That to me, those sounds sound completely from that world.
They
really
totally do. I
crisp.
was thinking exactly the same thing when Richard was playing it. It sounds almost produced. It sounds like almost produced Strat sound.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Rather
It's
than-
quite balanced, isn't it?
Yeah, very, and all the sounds on the switch sound right.
Yeah. I was a bit fumbly actually. I think I'd already got used to the stiffer switch there.
Stiff difference, isn't it? Yeah. But
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, at the risk of sounding really stupid saying this, it sounds newer. It just
It does
sounds
sound
like
newer.
more crystalline. It sounds more. It hasn't got the woodiness and the warmth that this has got. But again, it's brand new, so it's
It's got a sort of kind of separation between the notes. I thought it sounded particularly attractive in the in-between settings, actually, the neck and middle. Sounded really nice, because and I think Nev said something very telling there, was saying it sounds produced. They're V-Mod 2 pickups, so, I think that's Tim Shaw's designed those.
Yeah.
Right. And it, bear in mind that not all of us want to sound like kind of 60s players. Some of us definitely do, but there's a whole range of modern applications for which that kind of...
Yeah, and it's funny you should mention that, because looking down at these pickups without my reading glasses, but I can just about see them, if I squint at them, is the stagger again, it's not that sort of up and down stagger. They're beveled magnets, and they're fairly sensibly done, if you see what I mean. That's not too... not to insult
the other thing that might
vintage
affect that
stagger.
sound is the fact it's got a 2-point floating bridge.
Yeah.
So unlike this guitar, which is sitting on the top as they do, it's a very different transference of sound.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point to make, isn't it? That okay, the body outline's the same, but really this represents a few of the quote-unquote advances that have taken place for the sake of tuning stability, for the sake of player comfort.
Yeah.
I think that's got a sort of chamfered away
Oh, it has indeed,
yeah. And little things like that. I mean, how much do you value things like that? I mean, I know I never found the original neck, the heel of a Strat that intrusive, but
I never really get much higher than the 12th fret these days, so it's never really an issue for me.
Well, the archetypal Strat player, i.e. Hendrix, couldn't get up there. You know, because his guitar was upside down.
I'm getting so I can't hear above there.
Sorry, Ainsley, I cut across you there.
No. It's just it's never the original. I think. I mean, like many people have said, I think they kind of got it right back in the day. There's nothing I would change about this guitar, really. And I think all this kind of stuff, it's just think, well, it might feel a bit more comfortable if we do that. And
if you're
I didn't really think about it though. I certainly didn't go, what relief.
But if you're, say, somebody like Guthrie Govan, who spends a lot of time up the top there, and plays on the bass notes up the top there,
it probably is.
It would help a very, very advanced player. I mean, you're a very advanced player, but somebody like Guthrie, who's got all of that stuff, he might require that extra bit. A guy like me, who's basic end of things, doesn't require that.
Nev, I mean, just as we did last time, do you want to take that guitar from Richard and have a little, give us your thoughts as well?
Okay. Well, my first thought when Richard started playing it was just how nice it sounded.
It's got a very nice looking top.
I mean, it sounds really good.
It's a very pleasing sounding.
It's something that's almost acousticy kind of.
There is
sound to the and which I love. That I do actually really like that. I think on some, especially contemporary mixes of stuff, that would sound absolutely sweet.
If you had a session date, why wouldn't you want to take this in it? Because it would do so much more than a regular Strat.
I didn't think, speaking of that kind of thing, that tone control, the far tone control, does that do the bridge pickup? Oh, it does.
So that's
very versatile guitar.
Yeah, and this is the idea. I mean, that you put your finger on a mod that many players like to have on their Strats, which is a tone control, a dedicated tone control for the bridge pickup, because they never used to originally, and that's a bit of a pain when you can control everything else. Yeah. Aynsley, again, we'll follow the format we did with the other guitar. Do you want to grab this and put a little bit of hair on it and have a play, so we'll all have a go?
Cool.
I'm going to say I really like the driven tones more than the cleans, actually. They sound really nice.
But to me, they accentuate its newness. That they kind of sounded more modern, distorted tone.
When you put the overdrive on with that one, it got darker. Whereas this one, the overdrive seems to be accentuating at high end, and it's got brighter again. So it's kind of the opposite. It's strange, isn't it?
Strange. Yeah. I guess it must be something that someone that knew about electronics could explain about impedances or something like that.
Well, or the winding. I mean, if you think about, by the time this has been designed, we've got 70 years of people playing, and we've got, the last decade of modern needs, all going into how those pickups were designed and wound. And I really hear that. We put the drive on there. You know, it's just a really nice kind of contemporary lead sound. I really liked it. I don't know if everybody else liked it as much as I did, but
I think it's a great sounding guitar.
I think we should shout out to that orange amp, because I realised that's really suiting these Fenders, isn't it? I realised that, because I was expecting that not to be anywhere near as good as this one, and I actually think, it's not obvious. You know, people have their preferences, don't they? But it's not kind of. That's not out of the game.
Jamie's right. You could really hear that on a modern country track.
To me, it feels like a guitar that's almost designed, you know, completely to do that sound, that massive kind of big solo moment.
Yeah, or that
Paisley like almost, even though he plays tones, but
80s yacht rock clean tone.
Yacht rock, I love that.
You know, that really ultra clean tone that they'd use on the Jackson things and you know, Toto stuff. Really clean.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, in a way, we shouldn't be surprised. One is a vintage guitar doing that thing it does so very well. And this is really a machine that's designed for a modern player, made very recently, that sounds absolutely built for FM radio kind of, you know, crisp, clean production.
It does exactly what it says on the tin.
I suppose as well that because I personally came to this from a point of, well, that's going to have to be really good to keep up with this, especially after we heard this, to be honest. But I suppose there's also, I know on a lot of my own guitars I'll do mods, especially Strats, not necessarily that keen on them out of the box, and but this sounds absolutely fantastic. So I've definitely been. And
let it be said, this is about £2,000. This is considerably more, even as a refin. It's many thousands of pounds. You know,
if you could do the dodgy old car analogy, there's your old Bentley, you know, from the 30s, and there's your Lamborghini.
Yeah, or 60s 911 versus modern one. You know, one has a particular vibe and feeling of class, and the other does some functional things that the other one can't do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think let's put it to the vote now. I don't think this is going to be a terribly difficult match. Not that they're not both great guitars, but guys, what would you want to take out of these two if it was taking one home?
Should I go first? I think I've got an opinion. In the real world, I'd be more comfortable taking that simply because of the whole thing about the guitar's value and everything. But I don't know that we're particularly coming from that angle, so I'm going to say this one.
Okay, so for a daily driver, but if it's the weekend guitar, if it, you know, or
my sort of personal, like I'm just playing it for me. I know it's been around a bit.
Yeah. Well, okay, no massive surprise there, Aynsley.
It's that one.
What he said.
What he said. It's just, I think, I feel like when you dig in, it kind of just like responds to that.
Yeah.
Whereas it could be a setup thing. Again, this is a new, you know, pretty much brand new guitar, new strings. They're both set up with the same kind of action and everything, but I just feel like I can, that kind of works with my playing style, and it gives me the sound that I want to hear when I dig in. Whereas this, I feel like when I was digging in a bit, it's got a little bit too much. I don't know what the word is.
More plinky.
Bit more plinky.
Yeah. What you were saying about the shape of the note as well, that's a bit sharper. I wonder if that's partly the 2-point bridge. I know we could be here for weeks.
The rabbit hole beckons.
But definitely that one for me. Definitely.
Yeah.
Neville, go on, shock us all by.
I tell you what about this. This is coming, unluckily fallen into what's one of the best guitars we got here today. Yeah. And we played it as the first one. So this, in any other head-to-head, would quite possibly take it. It's a great guitar.
Well, can I also say that particular guitar, even among vintage Strats, is known as a really nice sounding one. So, I mean, it is a pretty David and Goliath match in the first place. That I really like. I think as he sort of, it's pretty. It's really nicely put together. I like the sounds, especially for that contemporary thing. There's no disgrace there, but I think, you know, any time a really good sounding 61 Strat is up against another Strat.
Well, that's my answer. I would obviously because like Aynsley said, it suits what I like in a guitar. I don't need what that can give me. And I would have that. But that's no disgrace on this because this is a great guitar.
This is a great guitar.
I agree, actually.
I'd happily sort of play it out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the winner of our first match then is Kel Surprise, the Daphne Blue 61 Strat, and on to the next two. Okay, so round two, we've got two more guitars to pick, and it'll be interesting to see what we get. Just before we go any further, Nev here, because he's an actual proper musician, has got to nip off for a gig shortly, so you'll probably see Nev waving goodbye to you halfway through this next one, but we thank him for...
Well, I've got a rock and roll gig. I'm the most un-rock and roll dressed person. I'm the worst who looks like a businessman.
Edinburgh Woolen Mill.
Oh, well.
It's
Okay. Am I doing this one?
Yes, I'll hand this to
Okay,
you.
thanks very much.
Only had a coughing fit then.
Okay.
What's our next contender?
Nev's Custom Shop Strat.
Oh, I didn't set that up. I swear I didn't sort of put that on the top there. Well, okay.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. And what's it going to be up against? Aynsley, do you want to pick the...
If it's not one of mine. Let's go for that one. Blue American Ultra Strat,
There you go.
which is that one.
Yeah, so that's the new top of the range, all the buzzers and bells one, and Nev's is a 1960 spec custom shop guitar. Wow, that's a great sounding guitar. This is a guitar I know quite well because when we've been gigging together, you've used it on the Hendrix tribute gigs we've done. So just quickly talk us through how you spec this guitar out at the custom shop.
I wanted a dark sounding Strat, not a spanky sounding Strat. So I spec this up with it's a basic Strat. It's alder body, quarter sawn maple neck, which I didn't ask for a flamey. I custom ordered it. I didn't ask for a flamey one. I asked them not to do the big volute thing on there, which they kind of did. I wanted a dark rosewood slab board. I wanted fat 60s pickups, tone control on the bridge pickup. And that was kind of it, really. And I wanted it faded Fiesta red. I've actually got an original Nitro Guard on here. Yeah. It's not an old one. It's a modern one, but it's a Nitro Guard, not a plastic one.
So you got this from a sort of third party?
I did, yeah. But everything else is original. That's just because it makes it look much more like an old guitar.
Yeah. What was the maker of that? Because we actually had a letter into the magazine, Guitarist Magazine, asking what the guard was on that when you mentioned it last time.
I don't know, because I didn't buy it. I was given it.
Ah, okay. So it was a gift from a friendly maker.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think with that, Nev, may we hand this to Aynsley.
Definitely.
If you switch off the drive, Aynsley, and go like you did before. We'll have a little brief break for a quick tune-up, and then we'll hear how it sounds. Just like we did.
Do you want to take the strap off?
Okay, so just as we did with the other two, Aynsley's going to give us a little blast with no drive, just a little bit of reverb, and we'll hear how this guitar sounds in his hands.
Okay. That's really, really nice.
It's a lovely guitar, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of it's very similar actually. Where is it? The
behind you.
the Daphne Blue. It's kind of got that warm woodiness,
Bloom as well. You know.
but it's got like some clarity as well.
I think it's a little bit fatter sounding, a touch hotter sounding than the Daphne Blue.
Possibly. Well, when you were playing, I did think maybe I will take the pickups down a bit on the bridge.
Right.
But they didn't sound ugly or anything.
No,
did
it
they?
didn't. No.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think this guitar for me is really fulfilling what the custom shop was built to do, which is to say, we'll give you a really good vintage sound, but you've got a 5-way selector, you've got the bridge pickup, all the little tweaks. That,
And 9.5 radius as well.
9.5 radius.
Yeah.
And bigger frets.
And big frets.
Yeah.
Very
Bigger
big
frets.
Yeah.
And save about 10 grand.
Yeah,
possibly.
exactly.
And the rest, you know.
Probably more.
I mean, that's a great sounding guitar, I've got to say, and I've thought it every time. I'm not just saying it's because Nev's here. I've thought that when we've played that at gigs.
And when you were tuning up, and sorry to talk over you, I did think it sounded a bit like the Daphne Blue.
It did when you were playing. They did tell me that a quarter sawn maple neck on an older body gives a certain sound. It gives you that warmer, plummier
But it's
tone.
but it's quite a direct sound as well. It's quite strong in the mid range, but not in quite a nice way. So it's got a nice mid range, but it's quite it's quite thick.
I like the fact it's got snap, but all of the warmth and body is still there as well. The snap isn't dominating.
not just
snap.
No.
It's not just snap.
What pickups do you say these are?
They're Fender Fat 60s, custom shop Fat 60s.
Cool.
Good, aren't they?
Again, are they particularly staggered?
They are probably they're more that's quite they're quite apparently staggered. But you do have actually the way you've got them set, like the treble side,
It's pretty
very
high,
very close. But
I think I will knock them down a little bit.
It
actually,
didn't sound like it. I think it sounds right.
Yeah.
So you've obviously done this.
I did tune it to my ears, so it's how I wanted it to
And it
sound.
might be dialed into your rig perfectly as well.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Well, Rich, following the pattern of the last one, do you want to kick on the drive and give us a little blast on that one? With a bit of drive so you can hear it perform that way. Great. I'll reach over. Oh, you got it. No worries. Yeah, got it.
I'm glad it didn't disgrace itself.
Not at all. Well, it might now. Told you. So that's wide open. I echo the earlier comments, really. Yeah, it's just wider ranging. It's got that sort of sound of the Daphne Blue, but with a more extended high end, which I suppose you could trim one way or another. But
I'm really hearing your original hopes for that guitar, which was it's quite an aggressive but dark sounding Strat. It's got plenty of guts, for want of a better term. It's got plenty of welly, and it reminds me of those, the first two Hendrix albums sort of sound, really dark and cutting, but warm as well.
It's funny. I always think of the perfect distorted Hendrix sound as Voodoo Child.
Yeah.
When he goes onto the bridge pickup on that, for the solos in the middle.
Yeah.
It's the sound for me. Obviously, it's not going to sound quite like that through an orange, but those oranges have never disgraced themselves. They're such great sounding amps.
it's really turned out to be a great amp to play Strats through.
Yeah. I'm glad that hasn't disgraced itself anyway.
No, I'd say not.
On that note, Nev, how you doing for time, mate? You've got a...
I've got about 4 minutes.
4 minutes, all right.
Yeah.
So let's have a little... we've sort of summed that one up. I think it's probably time to dive on to the next one. And Nev, maybe we can get your initial thoughts and then we'll have to reluctantly say farewell to you.
We'll have to text you what we say.
yeah, exactly. Came last, mate. Sorry.
Came last.
So,
There were no losers,
It's quite rounded on the top end.
Yeah.
It's got a mellowness to it, but still, there's top end there.
It's more modern sounding again, isn't
Yeah.
it? But it's very nice.
Yeah.
It's really nice,
does some
It's
good-
not
yeah.
shrill. It's not got.
No.
It's nice actually.
Yeah, it hasn't got that ping, has it, at
Yeah.
all? I wonder if the solid block saddles are contributing to that, because I hear that can...
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a 2-point bridge, isn't
Yeah.
it? I don't know, but I
Yeah.
did fit some solid blocks to one of mine recently, and my research seemed to indicate that...
I think it does make
Yeah,
a difference.
yeah.
It does make a difference.
The other thing is,
all that
it's
stuff.
noiseless pickups. They do tend to take
They're not
top
as
off, don't they?
toppy.
Right.
They can be the not good ones can rob it of
Yeah,
too
right.
much, but that's just about right. They've balanced it.
Yeah.
They've
I
voiced
feel,
it
I
really
feel like
well.
with this I can dig in a bit and it doesn't sort of like plink out.
Yeah.
Back.
Yeah.
If that's a phrase.
Yeah.
But also, one thing I noticed with the stagger on these pickups, on the vintage style, like the D and the G are kind of higher and then everything kind of follows the radius. But with this, the top E is high, the B is low, the G's really low, and the D. Maybe that's just how it works with the noiseless
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's almost inverted, isn't it?
That's
Yeah.
nice strat that, yeah.
It's nice. Yeah.
Nev, as you've got to dash off in a moment, do you want to give us your, little? I mean, you volunteered a couple of opinions there, but what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't need to play. I just thought it sounded very, very clean and very honest. It's kind of what you expect from a Strat. Everything you wanted from it, it gave. I couldn't fault the sounds really. But it's more modern sounding than this, I'd say.
It is, and I would say it's a little bit tighter as well, not in a bad way. And we were saying this earlier, that Fenders that have a little bit of an aura around the note, they're not just a really sharp, sort of narrow core to the note. That one's a bit more focused, but it's attractive, an attractive sound, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't bother with the locking tuners. Unless you're doing mad stuff with the arm. Of course, obviously, the
got all
2.1 gives you more point.
Yeah.
But there's a
Goes
lot
one
about
further,
it
doesn't it, than the
to like. I have to say, I love the colour.
Well, the concept
Yeah.
of these American
Right.
Ultra guitars is that you're getting all of the bells and whistles, all of the
Yeah,
things that
yeah.
a modern player might want. So it's got an S1 switch on the volume control. We won't go through all of those. It basically gives you all sorts of other switching options you wouldn't get on a standard Strat. As we're playing against, pretty much a bunch of other guitars that, with the exception of the 70th anniversary, have a very standard kind of blend. We'll keep it to the standard configuration, but suffice to say that you can get all kinds of combinations
I
on
think
that.
you can have them all, or you can have two
Yeah, well,
of them
there's a
in
little
parallel
cheat sheet here you get
series,
with it that says if you push the volume button in, you get you can get neck and middle in parallel. You can get all pickups in parallel. Bridge and neck pickup in parallel. They're basically sort of different arrangements. So you can't normally get bridge and neck pickup together, for example.
Yeah.
So
Where does the kitchen sink come in?
comes in that's in the case somewhere.
Which think?
Yeah.
So, okay, so over to you, Rich, I think, to chuck a drive pedal on and have a little wail on it. Just 'cause
I feel it's unfair. I'm getting to play with drive. Right. There we are. experiencing that for myself now, where you can dig in and it's not kind of
Ouch.
shouting back at you too much. I'm wondering if it might be a no load
Oh yeah, okay.
tone,
Yeah.
because I can feel that click, and the other one doesn't do it. So I'm thinking that is tone control out of the circuit. And then if I click on, don't know if that's going to come across really. There's just that kind of
Very
slightly
subtle.
I mean, it's a little bit stiff to operate, but that's probably a good thing, isn't it? I don't know about you, but I'm always going down to make sure that they haven't slipped down or anything.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good Strat to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit more focused. It's a little bit clearer and crisper and more contemporary. But I don't. My ears aren't objecting to that in any way. It's a pretty nice Strat sound. And perhaps I'm revealing my prejudices, but when I sort of see noiseless on something, I automatically think you're going to lose something in exchange for the noiselessness. But listening to that, I'm not feeling shortchanged at all.
No, I don't. In fact, if anything, I don't want it too bright. Sometimes you sort of read certain advertising things and you think, how bright is that going to be?
I mean, very, very quickly, I mean, just before we get on to our verdict on these two, I mean, we haven't really delved into the extra switching options because we want to keep it a reasonably level playing field. But how useful do you find those things? Is it just a once in a blue moon, it's the right thing for a particular track, or is it something that you guys would value to have those sort of things, the other pickup combinations like neck and bridge together and stuff?
I mean, I personally wouldn't use it. Not because it's not a good idea or it's terrible. I just wouldn't use it.
I'm the same. I kind of just think a Strat just as it is. The only thing I ever do to any of my Strats is I just wire the bottom tone pot to the bridge, just so I've got that option if I want to just back off a bit of spikiness, I can. But other than that, a Strat just with a standard 5 positions just works.
That's already a lot of sounds, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Nev,
I totally agree. It does everything that if you wanted to upgrade and modernise a great guitar, which is a Strat, that's got it all.
Yeah.
They haven't ruined the sound, which is very easy to do if you start modding things to the nth degree. I think it's a close run thing. It's a very, very good guitar. I wouldn't want that guitar because it's not my kind of guitar. Again, a bit like the other one, the 70th anniversary. It isn't my kind of Strat. This is my kind of Strat.
Yeah. Though I think this does look...
It acquits itself very well.
The colour. I think the colour's fantastic. It does look really cool. I really like that.
All the plastics look good as well.
I like the fact that the logo is like it's raised. It's like a little metal laser type thing.
It's quite cool. Isn't it? Yeah.
There's you have to kind of have your hands on it, but there are a few things that make it feel.
It's a special. It feels special.
Another thing that occurs to me as well, and I like the profile. I don't know if that's going to work if I hold that up. It's not too. It's quite curved. It's not coming miles out and then going across. I mean, I would quite like having a bit of a wobble on these, and I think if I'm not mistaken, that just
pushing on.
comes out.
So literally, they've done every little thing that has mildly annoyed people. And I say just things you notice and go, oh yeah, I've got to twirl it around to get the thing out. They've dealt with all of that. So I would say, if I was a well-heeled guitarist who loved Strats, there would absolutely be a place in my collection for that one and for that one, because I can see for a certain kind of session, that would be what if you're playing on a pop tune, a really modern, tightly produced tune, that would probably work really well. I'm not saying that wouldn't, but that to me has a much wider sound and a much more bloomier sound.
For me, I think they'd just call some other guy. I think
there is always that. Well then, shall we do a quick verdict before Neville has to leave us? All right. If it was crunch time, what would you pick out of the two?
I prefer Nev's Strat.
I would go for that one as well. It's just I like that sort of slightly thicker thing, but it's pretty close. If I'm honest.
It's close enough.
Again, it's a very, very good guitar. I mean, Fender can hold their heads up as far as I'm concerned. They're making a great guitar, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, this is the one I would want. I mean, I spec'd it, so of course I would.
It'd be weird if you didn't.
I'm just very, very glad it didn't get defeated in the first round against a classic player.
Actually, I forgot we were going to say that, weren't we? So,
yeah.
40 quid.
Yeah. But that is a very, very nice guitar.
I do like the guitar, and I sort of feel it's nice to feel pleasantly surprised.
If
by
you were
something.
reviewing it if I were reviewing it in the magazine, I'd be praising it to the hilt because it's a very nice guitar.
It's very
What you
sorted.
said about the locking tuners, I don't think
Don't
I'd be
need
bothered.
them,
It's got
no.
them on, I wouldn't take them off. And it's got these sort of rubber around the knobs, and I think they've got a slightly narrower sort of skirt, like
Yes.
really old
Yeah, yeah.
ones. They're quite nice. I would be interested to see what happened in a few years, whether I'd be taking those off.
And I think no disgrace for that, and that's coming from a self-admitted bunch of players who like the vintage style Strats.
Yeah,
so I mean, fair play Fender. That's a very good show.
Yeah.
And the setup's all really good and everything on them. Yeah.
Okay, well, on to the next two, and farewell.
I have to
Neville.
go.
Have a good trip.
I've enjoyed that, and I'm glad mine didn't get trounced.
We'll have to watch the video to see if we're being truthful.
yeah. Now he's gone. All right, guys. Take care, Ainsley. Take care, Rich.
Great to see
See
you.
you soon. Take care, Jamie.
Cheers, mate.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, we've said goodbye to Nev, and so we're going to carry on with the rest of our match-ups between our ancient and modern Strats, if you will. Ainsley, would you like to pick the next one?
Right. Sunburst Player Series Strat.
Okay, so that's probably the most affordable of all the Strats in here.
Well, I'm going to try and do this without my readers. I doubt it. Oh, yeah. 64 Blue Sparkle.
Blimey, okay, so there we go. We've got the cheapest with one of the most desirable and rare ones that are here, so this should be quite an interesting match. Nice. It's very. I mean, this is the Player Series guitar. So this is the cheapest one we have here, the most affordable. What was this?
599.
$599. So
Right,
you know, attainably priced for most players. Made in Mexico. Let's talk about some of the other features before we give our thoughts on it. Power Ferro fingerboards, so not rosewood, but a very credible alternative that's a bit more sustainable. It's got Alnico 5 pickups, and I don't know what the radius was today.
Oh, 9.5.
9.5.
Yeah,
So
9.5 medium jumbo frets.
it's that classic Goldilocks, easy kind of radius to play on for a Fender, and
Got a 2-point trem.
2-point trem. Sits in tune nicely, doesn't it? Just
It does, yeah. And it's nice to play. I think it feels like 9 to 38 or something. It's quite light strings.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's well set up. And the try not to knock that off. The tone control. This tone control is connected to those two.
Yeah.
And that one is to that.
Does for the bridge.
That's the way I always set my Strats up, which I find is the most useful. But yeah, no, it's and it's good weight. It's not heavy. It feels nice.
When I picked it up just a moment ago, it felt very playable actually. I thought you'd get around it quite pleasantly. I know it's got like 9s on and that, but I don't know. I mean, this is the standard of what you might call a standard or entry level guitar these days, and I'm pretty impressed actually.
Yeah, I agree. The worst thing I can say about it is that personally I find the Power Ferro fretboard quite light coloured, but you you could change that. I mean,
There
it
are
seems a bit
aftermarket
petty
waxes
of me,
as
really.
well, aren't you? You can get.
Yeah.
I think Monty's do one, like what we call their Monty Presso wax. I think you can it darkens up power ferro fretboards. What do you think of sound wise, Rich?
Yeah, really liked it. In fact, we've had a good day for sounds today.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that this amp suits Strats very well.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, yeah, Fender are making a really good guitar at the moment.
I found it a bit plinky.
Yeah. You're gonna go slightly more.
And I don't think that's just the strings and the setup. I just think it's. I mean, acoustically, it's got a bit more plink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd put a heavier set on it without a doubt.
I mean, but yeah, again, you could obviously probably round that off with a tweak to the setup. But but no, I think it sounds like. I mean, it sounds like a Strat, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sounds like a,
Would you mind if I have a little quick go on it as well? Because we'll follow the same pattern we did when Nev was here as well. What I'm hearing is a little bit less body, and I know we're down there in the in the brightest pickup selection. But even if you go to the neck, I'm hearing plenty of treble. It's not unpleasant treble. I think though, and bear in mind, I'm fully aware of the price difference between these two guitars. When you compare that to Nev's Custom Shop one, there's a lot more guts and oomph there, isn't there? And that's we have to view that in context of what the two guitars are. I do like it though. It's very playable, and there's a nice harmonious kind of separation between the strings. Actually, I do like that about it. The thing I like about it most, and this is again maybe the nines, is just the general playability of it. You can really throw yourself around it. It's quite nice.
yeah.
I think unsurprisingly, some of the 61 or Nev's one, vastly more pricey guitars. Yeah, okay, the pickups are maybe a bit more, a bit more nuanced and a bit more body and all the rest of it. But blimey, that's a lot of guitar for the money. Do you want to have a quick go with a bit of drive on? Rich?
Yeah, sure. I feel like I must have. I didn't bribe them to let me play with drive. But here we go. I just wonder whether if this were mine, I might experiment with a slightly heavier set.
Yeah,
the
I would
action
do that.
height seems all right. Maybe block saddles or something on it.
Well,
maybe mitigate some of that.
Yes, that's because it's got bent steel saddles. One thing
Yeah.
I do recommend people try, which I really love on a Fender scale length, is if 10s are a bit stiff for you, 9.5s, a lot of makers will do the in-between sets, and sometimes they can be the real Goldilocks feel, slinky, but a bit more body to them.
Yeah, true. I'm thinking that maybe the way this amp is voiced, I'm not feeling so desperate to reach down and grab for the bridge tone control. As I normally would.
It sounds great. It sounds really good. Yeah, it's a great sound.
I think those chords are holding together really well. Sometimes in cheaper guitars, you sort of hear the more affordable price in the fact that when you put a bit of drive on and you hit a big chord, it all just sort of frays a bit and doesn't sound very. That's quite nice.
And I know we've mentioned this before. The stagger here, again, interesting. It's more just an even stagger that matches the string radius rather than sort of up and down, and that would appear to be a good thing. Yeah, I think.
What do you think about the sound? Now that we've put a bit of welly on it.
I always prefer the way guitars sound when other people play them. But,
I thought it sounded much better with you playing it than when I played
I
it.
had the
And when
drive.
you- yeah, it's
I
like-
mean, I wouldn't agree at all, but I had the drive, which probably helped a bit. But yeah, it's I think that it doesn't feel that substantial because they're quite thin strings, aren't
Yeah.
they? And
Yeah.
So you're consciously holding back slightly.
Yeah.
I felt like when I was playing it, I didn't want to dig in, so it sort of buzz out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it
Blink
sort of
out.
slaps around a bit, and I reckon that cancels a few frequencies, maybe.
Yeah.
And let it be said, I always play with my fingers as well, so there's a kind of inbuilt
Right.
bit of
Yeah.
tone.
I always find I sound bright with my fingers as well. I can't win.
So it's so funny, isn't it? A lot of players are bright. I've got bright fingers. It sounds like
Yeah.
something you go to the doctor with.
Yeah. What am I going to do, Doc? Amputation.
Cool. Well, should we park that for a moment, and then rather unfairly, it is a bit of a David and Goliath match. We'll get the
Yes, indeed.
64
Right.
out.
That's huge.
Really nice.
That's pretty nice, isn't it?
It's mellow.
Very mellow.
Very round and it's very mellow, but it's not muffled sounding.
Yeah.
Yes, not at all, not at all. There was a certain sort of frequency in the mids that it has that some of the others haven't had.
Yeah.
It's still got plenty of detail, hasn't it? You know, it's not like
Oh yeah.
So it's quite a dark neck pickup. I think because the last few Strats we've had, they've all been sort of newer ones.
yeah,
It's got that rolled off top end,
yeah.
but it's still, even acoustically,
Yeah.
it's got some sort of zing.
It's interesting. That's like a sort of a thread running through the older ones, isn't it? And Nev's one,
Yeah.
to a point where they've had that fruitier.
They do, and I think it's got some welly. Do you know what I mean? It's like immediately the volume jump, but not just the volume jump, the sense of expansiveness.
I wonder
You know.
if it's a frequency thing as much as volume.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if they're hotter. I don't think they're hotter.
I think it's a frequency thing, and again, immediately with this one, maybe it's a setup that's maybe probably 10s rather than 9s. or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I feel like you can even acoustically
Yeah,
you can sort of dig in without it kind of, it doesn't get super scratchy or trebly, whereas
No, absolutely.
these older ones definitely seem to have mellowed out like that.
Yeah.
But I mean I like it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. Yeah.
I'll have a quick go if may as well. Be rude not to. So it's got a sort of interesting in-period custom finish on it. It's like a sparkle on it. Really on the cusp of two eras of Fender, really. Between the sort of Leo years and the CBS years. But
Oh,
Of
yeah, it's
course,
got the
64, yeah.
feels quite bluesy to me. I don't know if that's just because I'm in a sort of blues playing mood today or something, but it feels like, you can imagine Buddy Guy or someone like that playing this and really
It lends
giving it
itself
some.
to that.
It really does. I mean, again, something we said earlier, often you'll see on, relics or people who've done aged type guitars, they'll kind of strip the back of the neck. And what we're saying is actually most of the Strats, the real old ones that you see in play, it's not all bare wood. I mean, it's been kind of nicely coloured up by people's hands. There's been a bit of abrasion, but
sometimes the relicking can be a bit enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And it's very random as well. It's like it's not a uniform thing.
No.
With some of the, like say, some of the relicking, it's almost like it's right. This area of wood is going to be completely bare, and it's just this. Whereas if you look at, like you say, a real old one, there'll be certain areas in there where it's worn through, certain areas it's not, depending on which chords people have played the most or whatever. And it's unique to each old guitar.
Very much so. It tells the story of the owners, the prior owners, really.
I can see from here actually the divots in the fretboard all around between the sort of 4th and 6th fret.
Oh yeah.
There, that lovely kind of dark waxy rosewood board. Yeah.
One thing I would say that's interesting between the vintage ones, and I don't think it would be put off anybody from being given a nice old vintage Strat, is what you do get with the modern ones is the fingerboard is completely uniform and even. This is like driving over an older road. There's little bits where your fingers go, oh, let's correct for that. It's by no means, divoty or anything like that. It's just, you just can feel its character and the little things you can feel something that's had a few years on it. And that's lovely and it's part of its character. But again, things like wedging the pickup selector, it's never going to put off anybody from owning a real one. But, it's something that you have to factor in, isn't it?
I would probably have to change if that was my guitar. Obviously as a vintage guitar, that kind of stuff, obviously affects the value. But I would just want to use it, and that would just annoy me. So I'd have to change it.
Yeah,
fair play.
Yeah, it wasn't having it, was it, when you tried to do neck in
no.
the middle? Yeah.
Rich, let's chuck this at you and let's put a bit of drive on and see. I reckon that's going to sound
with
monstrous.
distortion.
We'll put the
It's a
the
lovely
metal
weight
zone on.
and balance again, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really feels good.
I feel like you don't want Strats to be too heavy or too light. Just that nice kind of substantial feel to
I
it.
agree. Okay, I slipped. Okay, that's stock. That's not. I noticed that the bass side of the treble pickup there is really high, and the treble side is really low. So I wonder what that would be like.
I think that's something we have to acknowledge. I mean, we're doing this. This is not the most scientific of tests. We're doing it just kind of as a bit of enjoyable way to explore these instruments. But the way that pickups are set up height-wise will have a big influence on the sound and how you perceive the playing experience. So there is that natural variability there.
Yes, yeah. No, that's definitely. That's really fruity, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that is a word. I don't know if it's appropriate. As opposed to pingy. I mean, it's not too bright, is it? I think I was digging in maybe a little bit too hard a minute ago. But
No, I think what I keep thinking with that one is it's almost like a perfect blues rock guitar. It's got so much welly to it and substance. So you can dig in and it's quite savage actually in its way, but it's got a lot of warmth as well. So nothing hurts the ear.
Yeah.
I feel it's quite in the same manner as Nev's one actually.
Yeah, it is. It's just like Nev's actually.
Yeah. I mean, possibly even smoother at the top.
Yeah.
I'd say that's probably the smoothest one we've had yet.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's the roundest one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys. I mean, the most uneven probably matchup we'll have here.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think, Rich? I mean,
again, I suppose when we had this earlier, in the real world, if someone were to say, look, take this out and play it, then I'd probably do some mods to that and then just not have to worry that I was ruining something. Though this has obviously had a few mods and stuff in the past, by the look of it. There's a hole there and stuff. It'd be hard to say no to, wouldn't it?
yeah.
This feels more special to me.
It's very vibey, isn't it? And I think for me, actually, if you take away all of the vintage baggage that we all have about that, whether we view that positively or negatively, I think just the expansiveness of the tone, it's big sound. And I think one thing that's interesting is, I think that's a very cool sounding guitar, especially for the price. But you really notice that jump in kind of expansiveness and the size of the sort of sound.
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful guitar for anybody you could play any old gig on that, but it's a different kind of league, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like with this, again, like the 60, the Daphne Blue and with Nevs as well, I feel like you can just let go a bit. You don't have to worry about sounding like too strident or anything, because they're just a bit more full range.
Yes.
And this feels, obviously, it's a very old guitar. It feels lived in, and it's just nice. Yeah. So obviously I would take this one, and the colour's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I do love the colour. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that,
really
but
cool
I love
sparkle.
it.
I mean, I would do the same, but I think, in a sense, this isn't really. This is comparing apples and pears. I think compared to the entry level or very standard Strat that I might have bought when I was starting out in the 90s. I think that's a many steps ahead in terms of playability.
I think this is much easier to get a good guitar now, and this isn't an advertising feature at all, is it? But I mean, you've got to say that they're doing well. They are definitely making a great guitar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I think no problem of naming the Player Series as the best for value, but I mean, can't take it away from that. That's a huge guitar. It's a really great sounding one. So we have another winner. Okay, onward with our Stratocaster Ultimate Shootout, and so we've got 2 more pairs to go of contenders before we get to the finals. So, Aynsley, if you'd like to do the honours and pick the next of our Strats to enter the ring.
Oh, my blue Strat from 1970.
Okay, so Aynsley's blue Strat from 1970.
I was hoping to win that one myself.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got your Sunburst 75.
Okay.
So it's Aynsley's versus Aynsley's here.
All right. Okay.
It'll help you decide on the next gig, won't it?
Yeah. Right. Okay. Oh, hang on. I'll tell you what. Shall I start with this one and you start?
So just hit us with that one more time, Aynsley. The Sunburst one is what year again?
75.
That's the 75, and that's the
wonderful.
Yeah.
This is 70.
That's the 70.
And they're both tuned to E flat as well. So this is
Okay.
handy.
Oh, that's handy. At least they've got E flat and E flat.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll kick off with the 75. I think. Since you're holding that one.
Just check the old tuning.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Short interlude while we. All right. So it's 70s versus 70s. Ainsley's got the 75 here. Would you want to play us in with a bit of noodling on that thing?
Yeah. Things to play.
I know the feeling. That's lovely sounding.
Yeah. So in comparison, again, I suppose, obviously, I know this guitar pretty well. Quite warm, quite rounded, but sort of, there's some sparkle there, but not too much.
Yeah.
This has obviously got the 70s block saddles, which do take a bit of that sort of high end sizzle off. So this is quite woody sounding, I guess. woody sounding thing.
Loads of definition though. It's a sort of
Yeah.
weird, interesting blend of woody, but also loads of definition. I mean, that's the nice, appealing thing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm getting sitting here, because I'm sat right in front of the cab, and it appears louder.
Yeah.
But again, I wonder if it's a frequency thing. I know you're down to E flat with these, which I think sounds great. But definitely I'm feeling the sound. I'm feeling the vibration in the floor and stuff when you're playing. Yeah.
And you mentioned you mentioned the bridge saddles. Is this into the Zamac saddle era, or?
Yeah, so I think it was around sort of like mid-71. They switched from the bent steel ones.
Yeah, I've got bent steel here. Yeah,
which are on that one. These are obviously the cast ones, which were seen as I don't know, maybe a cost-saving thing, but it's a softer metal, I think. So it does tend to round off that top end. A lot of people hate them on this. I always take a guitar. Just do I like the guitar as it is? And I bought this guitar because I just liked it as it was. So I've never changed them, and it kind of, on this guitar it works. Yeah. On others maybe not so much, but...
Yeah, I mean, when we've done, I know Hugh Price, when we did a feature on the 70s Strats, he said the Mazak saddles did, for a period, coincide with brighter pickups, so they might just balance each other out.
I think these 70s ones, the pickups are supposedly wound a bit, not as hot. Yeah. I suppose it kind of...
I noticed they're the flat poles, aren't they? Which I didn't...
Yeah, so these came in, I think it was around about sort of end of 74, 75. Yeah, so these, again, another downward step, but, on this...
sounds great.
Certainly works on this guitar. Yeah. So,
I mean, that's a really important point that, we talk there's a lot of things in guitar that are kind of taken as received wisdom. Oh, yeah, anything after 75, don't bother, 70 Strats, they're no good. They weigh a ton, they don't sound good. This sounds an absolute peach.
Well, neither of these fit with that.
Yeah, they don't match the sort of horror story at all. So that's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some great guitars made. I think, I had mine was heavy as hell, but it was a hardtail, mid-70s, 76, actually. So I'm guessing that was just before they went all black with the plastics.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I don't know how original it is. I know it's the original finish and neck and stuff. Whether it originally had black plastics, I don't know. I bought it looking like this, which is one of the reasons I bought it. It's obviously lived a bit of a life.
And poly finishes, people say, they don't age like nitro, but boy, this has got loads of character.
Yeah, it's like even on the edge, it's kind of the way it's worn is. I think it must be nitro. I don't think that can be poly. So who's up next?
I'll have a little quick go on
the action is obviously a little bit higher.
Yeah,
but it suits it though.
I mean, it's really just soulful, isn't it? It's got. I noticed it has got a bit more snap than some of the others we've looked at. But no lack of warmth. I think it's very balanced, actually. I think we compare that to the Blue Sparkle we played, which was had loads and loads of bottom end and warmth. This feels like a much more evenly balanced Strat, in a really good way.
Another thing that occurs to me, just because it might be worth mentioning in here, is we're maple fretboards here, aren't we? And I do realise that with a different neck or body, I suppose, one might cancel the other out. You might end up with a brighter rosewood guitar or a brighter maple one. But I think perhaps that accounts for it. It just occurred to me as you were playing, perhaps that accounts for some of the snap. Because there's no lack of any of the other frequencies, but it's just got this extra...
If you had to have one or the other for the rest of your life, what would you choose, rosewood or maple boards?
Most of my Strats tend to be maple for whatever reason. Not that, like you say, you might get a rosewood Strat rosewood board Strat that is brighter than maple board ones.
By fluke.
And it's all of my Strats that are my go-to Strats tend to be maple.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And but that's, you haven't deliberately chosen that; it's just worked out.
No,
that way,
it's
but-
certainly not. No, I mean I get asked quite. Oh, you don't like rosewood then? I'm like, no, I just like a nice sounding Strat.
I think I'm the same actually. I slightly prefer maple. I just like the visual look of it actually on a Fender.
I
as
do
well.
like the worn look of maple. I think it looks super cool.
It really does.
It's funny, yeah, I've ended up not having any. Both of mine are rosewood, but
Yeah.
I like the maple. Well, the older one I was talking about a few minutes ago, that was maple.
Yeah.
And the lacquer on it, wow,
Yeah.
it was a bit like having had a couple of pints, looking at the thickness of the lacquer.
Yeah.
The sort of board was like refracted under this big, thick layer of poly. What's it? Poly, not nitro.
True. Do you want to have a go on this with a bit of drive on it, Rich? Seems you're the designated
I would
driver.
love to. That's right, the designated driver. I like that. Yeah.
Thanks. Oh, steady now.
Whoops. Yeah, I'm just talented, I guess. Lovely. Right. The setup, the way you got these set was great. I really like it. People talk about the different tone of string gauges, excuse me, but I also think that the way that they feel, it's just a
It's a
real
big thing.
thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I set them up like that is not necessarily for the sound. It's just it seems to just suit my playing style. I do tend to dig in a bit, and it just seems to work for the intensity that I hit the strings. It just
all balances out.
It kind of feels just right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean with that. Yeah. I feel a similar way about that. Yeah, this is... I'm not going to put it out of tune. I can sort of hit it and it's not going to go like that.
I think you get a certain authority from the low E as well, like a real kind of thwack.
I mean, that E flat as well. Always like A in that as well.
It's a super guitar, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would this be an appropriate juncture to bring Aynsley's other amazing guitar into the fray? It's just embarrassment of riches that we've got here, which is... I love this guitar. I think it looks absolutely stunning.
It's a real beauty. Yeah.
I honestly don't know which of these is going to float everyone's boat.
Well, it's going to be interesting for me because I obviously know these two pretty well.
Yeah.
So, but hearing what you two guys make of them.
Yeah, that's a lovely guitar.
Is this the one you were talking? Excuse me, about the middle pickup earlier?
Yeah, it's
because
just
I thought I detected that had a really lovely balanced.
yeah, it's just got like again, it's quite a warm. Like we were talking about earlier, I don't like super bright Strats. I don't like Strats to be too bright because even acoustically, I like to be able to dig in without it kind of like flapping about too much on the frets. So I tend to go for Strats that are a bit probably thicker sounding, and obviously we're in E flat as well for this, but. It's the only Strat I've ever had or ever played where I like the middle pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is great sounding.
I think it's just a shade mellower than this one, and which is strange because actually when we've played, you've got a sort of Olympic white one as well, which is that by comparison that sounds a little bit brighter and sort of edgier than your white one.
Yeah, I suppose again, because we're down to E flat, so you get a bit more of that sort of low mid like plumminess anyway. But yeah, my Strats tend to sound a little bit darker than a typical Strat, but still
I like how punchy both of these guitars are.
It's very punchy, actually, even on the high strings.
And
I sort of feel something of a thud, even when you're playing on the higher strings.
There is a definite thud there. But again, I suppose, fair test, what would probably have been more fitting would be to obviously string these up with 10 to 46 and tune them up.
And again, please don't write letters. We're sort of this isn't like the Swiss Institute of Guitar Testing. We're having a bit of fun exploring what these guitars are like. So these are in E flat, and we have to acknowledge that we'll sort of give them a certain sonority and things that.
Well, I think that I would say is a sort of good tip for getting great Strat tone as well. String it slightly heavy, tune down a half step. Will definitely give the guitar a bit more gravitas.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, if someone told me I had to play Strats in E flat for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be gutted.
I really like the sound of a Strat in E flat. Yeah,
I'm kind of tuned to it now, so it's like I've done it for years, all of my gigging career. So, and I suppose I'm kind of spoiled in a way that I do my own thing. So I'm not playing for someone else, so I can kind of please myself. So I'm so used to like that's E to me. So when I play another guitar, I'm like, why is it tuned to F? That's what it sounds like. Everything seems like further off the guitar or something.
I tell you don't hear about, this is probably, I might be completely wrong about this, but you don't hear about people tuning tellies down to E flat as much as you hear Strats being tuned down to E flat. Is that a Hendrix thing just because Jimmy did it and they sound good, or do you think it's to do with the bounce of the Strat in particular sounds good in E flat?
It affects so many, you wouldn't think it would make such a difference, but it affects the feel, just how the guitar resonates.
And it probably lets you string them up a bit heavier as well for the same sort of string feel.
But it does make quite a difference. But again, still, from one Strat to another, it's going to have a different effect. So.
I normally have a little tinkle on these, but I'm going to say, Rich, do you want to go straight to having a bit of a blasterini on that?
And I've got to have my drive.
You've got to have your drive. You're not allowed to play it clean now.
Clean? Yeah. Even dirty. going to turn the tone down, then I thought, I don't need to really.
There's no wrong with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
you just
gorgeous Strat.
can't just give it away to me like that.
I thought that sounded really good.
That contract you signed when you entered the building, Ainsley, obviously did transfer possession of these to us.
Yeah, sorry,
afterwards.
someone had to make that joke, didn't they? Yeah, beautiful. I mean, just and obviously the look of it as well.
Yeah, it looks fab, doesn't it? I think the headstock. I just love the way the headstock colour has aged. It's gone to a real sort of nice honey colour, and
Yeah,
so
yeah. I feel like I should be
vibey.
ordering a pint of double diamond. You know.
Yeah, because the face of the headstock on the 70s ones, the necks were sprayed in poly, but the face of the headstock was
They were
in
nitro, weren't they?
okay.
Yeah.
Something to do with like the
get the-
polyurethane lacquer was reacting with the logos
yeah.
or something. So.
Yeah.
I'm glad they did actually, because there's something nice about that darkening down
See
like
around
that.
the edge. I had one, a 79. They seem to have made so many of them back
Yeah.
then. That was a
Yeah.
rosewood board, and it was almost like someone had wrapped sellotape around the edge of the headstock or something. That was lovely.
Yes. Well, boy, I mean, this is a really tough choice because I think they're very evenly matched. Which one do you play more often?
Out of the two, that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think I would say I'm going to go for plunging first and say buy a nose, that one. Just because I think actually I wasn't sure at all until just as Richie was playing on the bridge pickup, the drive
right,
one.
yeah,
I thought
that's exactly what
there's
I
nothing
was
there that's
thinking.
hurting my ears at all. Not that it was on this one, but it's just such a great bite to it. It's really nice.
It really just seemed to do exactly what I
Yeah.
hoped it would do,
Yeah.
and I flicked the switch down there.
It's
So
just
for that reason, I'm the same.
Yeah.
But it's
Ain't a lot in it at all. I mean,
No.
I'd be happy with either
No.
of these, but yeah, buy and nose that one. Ainsley, I mean, it's like choosing between your children. You probably can't bring yourself to say anything. I would have thought.
I think probably that one. I prefer the colour of that one. I've never been a massive fan of Sunburst, if I'm honest.
no.
yeah, I know what you mean by that.
I bought that one a few years ago just because it just looked like it had been to hell and back, and I thought it's probably, as long as there's nothing untoward, like it weighs as much as a car or anything, which it doesn't. I thought it's probably quite a good one because it's been played a lot. But out of the two, visually, I quite like this. This looks great in photos.
It does actually, yeah.
Yeah.
That actually featured on the cover of Guitarist Magazine. It looked fabulous, actually.
Yeah.
So go on then. I think the 70 just has it.
Yeah, I'll go with that. And I think part of that is the look,
Yeah.
And flicking down the bridge there was just a certain thing happening that I thought, I was
think
going to
so.
turn the tone down. I thought, well, there's no need.
It's already there.
That's great.
And I think, we say, it's only the look of it, but hey, we all got into guitars because they're cool, and some part of that's the look. So, hey. All right then, Lake Placid 1970 is the winner of that round. And on to the last of our initial heats. Okay, so the last of our initial heats, and I think mere mathematics tells us that we should get quite an interesting matchup here. So, Aynsley, would you like to...
Right. An original 1956 Sunburst Stratocaster.
Okay.
So, well, there's only the one in here, isn't there? But I can't find it. That's the difference. Right, there we are.
It's hiding.
And let's hold it the right way up. A white Vintera 2 60s Strat. So 60s reissue.
Okay.
It's a pretty level playing field.
Bit of a another
every
David
way.
and Goliath matchup, but let's not presuppose too much. Let's get the guitars out and we'll give them a try.
I'll stop there before it goes wrong anymore. Really nice. But the first thing that's apparent to me is it's got that kind of sort of crystalline sort of top end.
Yeah, almost Thomas Telly like,
isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly on the bridge pickup, it's got that.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop playing. It's all going wrong.
Oh, no, the feeling.
But yeah, nice.
Crystalline's a really interesting phrase, and you can hear the decade difference there. And I'm not just basing that off one guitar. Certainly, the few 54s I've played, some of those, though they vary tremendously in the first year, can sound almost as savage as a broadcaster, or almost as hot as a broadcaster. This is a couple of years in, so it's settled a little bit. We're into an older body, I think, here.
Yeah.
Mid 56 is when they changed from ash to older. And not much.
And needs a bit of needs some pliers on that.
Yes, and yeah, funnily enough, although Mark Knopfler's really most famous for playing that 61 red Strat, I could imagine him playing a guitar like that and sounding really amazing. I mean, it would anyway, but I don't know. It's a different kettle of fish, actually, isn't it, from the big fat 60s ones?
It's kind of like an inherent EQ curve that is different.
Definitely, yeah. It's I think this would lend itself to sort of like cleaner playing. I think.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to hear it with you with the drive pedal kicked in.
Yeah,
the designated driver. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, just before we do, because I can't pass up the opportunity to have a go on a 56, do you want to kick on the tremolo and we'll give it a little bit of that 50s kind of vibe? Okay. And Aynsley, I'll just relieve you of that.
Can you do this? Because I don't know what to play for 50s vibe.
Well, I'm not sure I do either, but... That's really nice. Very pleasant, really very pleasant. And but as you say, a little bit of tremolo just to evoke a little bit of that vibe, clean. It's just a very very cool, clean sound, isn't it?
Yeah. Within the kind of broader palette of Strat tones, that is very different colour completely.
It's a different colour completely, and yet classic too. The ear recognises it quite quickly. Yeah. Boy, though, this isn't your 63 Strat or your 64 or nor yet your 70. They all sound so different. And okay, we mustn't infer too much from one guitar, but you can hear the decade difference. I think
different wind on those pickups
for
and everything.
Sure.
Probably interesting. I think some of the early 54s had a different value in them, like 100k or something like that. That really rolled
I've
off.
seen something about that.
Yeah.
Some of the high end, but I don't suppose that's 56.
Yeah,
56.
So
that won't have.
I think they've kind of almost sort of started down that road of settling into the definitive Strat format. Richard, I'm going to hand this to you because I'm really intrigued to hear what it sounds like.
Noticing immediately that there's a much lower string height, isn't there? So that's going to be giving us a bit more snap. I could get through the 12 bar, but it becomes less 50s. I've run out of ideas. seeing if anyone had modded it and they haven't.
Wow.
I'm going to zero the volume control just in case it
Yeah.
does that thing
Yeah.
again.
Wow. I mean, I feel like this is almost like stands alone really among these guitars. It's almost a different beast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something in like the higher frequencies. It's got that kind of
sizzle.
Yeah.
Not bad sizzle, but like a...
Yeah, it definitely has a wider range at the top and maybe less bottom. What do you think?
Yeah, a little bit.
I think it just sits a bit further up the frequency.
Yeah, the whole thing.
I could see some like it's the most rockabilly of the guitars. You can imagine like if I know Brian Setzer doesn't play Strats, but you can imagine him tearing it up on one of those.
If he did,
If he did, it might be one of those.
Yeah.
I think also I must say I really like it. Okay, because it's a real contrast. Just that savageness though, it's a bit wilder, isn't it? It's kind of we can also I feel like I can see why the 60s Strat became most people's idea of the peak of the bell-shaped curve in terms of Strat development. But something about these earlier ones, they're just a bit like they're very toothy and wild and a bit
unruly, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit unruly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think into the wrong setup or the wrong amp, it might sound a little bit much on the high end frequencies, but I think as long as that's kind of dialed in right, it's.
I suppose my understanding of certainly Marshall designs is they were making them brighter as we went through the 60s into the 70s and everything, weren't they? A lot of the time, and because it would drive better. I don't know, and so maybe into one of the older amps.
I think. What's interesting to remember is the context. I mean, you think that at the time. Fender was working with country artists, so brightness was seen as a really desirable quality of the new generation of solid body instruments. It was like, this ain't your Gibson, you'll get actually more snap for your country and stuff like that. It'll sound more.
I suppose one other thing to think about is this is sort of 56, so that's like 2 years into the Strats lifetime, but they'd come off the back of tellies, and I suppose that bridge pickup telly thing might have been something they were like, okay, so let's make a Strat sound similar to that on the bridge position. Yeah. And then, so almost supposed to do what a telly does, but also with some other options as well. So that might have been why. I
mean, certainly I can imagine that in the way that people talk about audio mastering, if it sounds louder, then people might think it's better, and they might have had the same idea with brightness, perhaps going between the two of them.
I think you also think about like lap steels and things like that Fender were making. Again for that Californian country market, you can see how those tones and the priorities of players right then. I mean, looking back, 54, the difference between 54 and 64 seems like not that much looking back through history, but at the time it's 10 whole years in music, which is a lot going on at that time.
Wow, yeah. I noticed that the contours of this are really...
well, that's worth showing off because
exaggerated. I'll try and
the earlier 51s
had
basically a lot more handwork on them. Yeah. So the edges tend to be more radiused everywhere up on the headstock. And the belly carve is longer and more svelte.
I'm quite liking that, actually.
Yeah, that's right. There was just a bit more, because they were trying to prove something to the world, I think probably a bit more fine work. If you look at the edges of the headstock there, it's just a little bit rounded. They put a little bit more sanded radius on it. Some of it's just time, I'm sure, but...
around here, it's almost like...
Yeah, somebody's just spent a bit of time with that. And as production went up and they had to make more and more to meet demand, obviously some of the nuance kind of left the building in terms of production guitar.
Other thing that we noticed earlier talking about this, wasn't it, was the quite exaggerated V.
Yeah, and it's a 56, isn't it? So it's not quite your full-on 57, but it's headed a little in that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
it's all a lovely fit as well.
You'd hope so after the 70 years, wouldn't you?
Well, I suppose so. Mind you, you sort of play some and you can tell that's
very true.
Super good joinery.
Well, it seems a bit unfair, but we're going to go over to a brand spanking new Vintera 60s Strat here. So if I take the 56 off, you better put that in the rack.
I'll just take that off your hands.
Just a trifle, just a trifle on the expensive side. Okay, our last contender, the Vintera 260s Stratocaster. Take it away.
I really like that.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
lovely.
just it feels well balanced, and
It's much more composed than the 56, isn't it? It's like instead of sort of being quite wild, it's really poised. I would say.
Yeah, I found myself wondering, because you sort of go into the in-between settings and it sounds absolutely great the way you'd expect it.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily always the case with some of the vintage ones, is it?
Yeah.
It's not as bright.
Yeah.
That really pops out, those tones.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like everything's been optimised.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
that's right. Do you mind if I have a little
yeah,
tinkle on it?
yeah. I thought it just sounds balanced in all areas.
Yeah, it's very pleasant, isn't it? Yeah. Very different from the 56. I mean, where that has all of this age and wild character and all this sort of thing. And this is like a poised instrument. Instrument's a good word. It's like it's does what you goes where you point it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's been optimised.
It has. Richard, I think it's time for you to put the driving gloves on,
Ruin the whole
so to speak.
By putting drive on it.
Have a little blast on that.
Great. Sorry, I'm buzzier because of where I'm set. Too much of that, do we? In fact, just going by ear, I just ended up turning it all the way back up again.
Sounded great to me.
It does sound really
I'm
good.
in agreement with you guys about this. Is great. Nice setup, and you know, I mean, it's a little bit heavier and all that, and some of these lovely light ones we've had, but it's not an issue. I've got heavier guitars.
£1,009 that a full retail.
Is that cheaper than the 56?
It's I think it's probably a couple of hundred quid at least.
Taking a zero off, I think. Yeah. You know, if we're going to be really, really honest about this, that guard would be straight off, and I wouldn't even keep it as a spare.
It is rather minty, isn't it? Even for a
It
it up.
really sticks out as I think that could be. Yeah.
Some people
I mean,
might
it's
love it.
subjective, of course, but
Yeah.
the first thing I would do is I'd be changing that.
Yeah.
I could see. I mean, actually,
Maybe parchment or something.
It's interesting, yeah, because if you went and bought a really nice aftermarket aged one by one of the companies that does that, I think the rest of it will all of a sudden assume there's quite a really vintagey character.
Yeah, I agree, and it's got all the vintage appointments. The 6-point.
But you have got the treble, the tone control on the bridge pickup, which is very handy.
Yeah, really like that.
Radius is more vintage than some of the other ones we've done today. Was it
7 1/4?
Yeah, 7 1/4. Yeah, but I didn't feel it. I didn't feel it as
it's-
being radically different.
I think this is set up
Plays clean.
really well. Out of all the newer ones, I'd say this is one of the nicest. Well, certainly from when I was playing it. Anyway.
Feels like 10s to me rather than the 9s that they often come with.
And of course, Olympic white. I mean, you can't object to Olympic white. It's a
Lovely
great
shade, actually. I think.
Oh boy, have we got a sort of giant killed giant situation on our hands here? I mean, I'd quite like to see. Part of me would quite like to see one of the new offenders go through to the final, just so.
If you want my opinion, I would at the two. As much as I love cool old vibey vintage guitars, I would actually pick that one as the more usable guitar.
If you were going to go out gigging and
if I was, if I actually wanted to use the damn thing, I would. I would actually pick that.
And I think, though 56 Strat is a 56 Strat, that's a very special thing, and I'm very happy to have played it. But I'm with this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm going to say?
Wow.
So I know it's not perhaps the result one might have expected, but I'm going to say that there's something really incredible about the 56 that I'm really glad that I experienced. And I think in a certain player's hands, like a Strat playing Brian Setzer, my God, that you could tear it up on that. But as we've said with these vintage guitars, everything's a little bit crackly and all that. That's all fine. I mean, that's not the end of the world.
Easy
But
fix,
day in, day out, do you know what? I think this occasion, the 56 will get plenty of love for what it is. I think we should let this one go through to the final.
I think so. It would be a
Quite
shame not
deservedly
to. And I think it's a really cracking guitar.
Yeah.
I think that the slightly heavier strings have helped a little bit, and a really good setup.
Yeah.
I mean, and these are out of the box. We haven't spent ages dialing them in or anything. So
I think that's a really nice guitar. And so we're going to declare it in the shock result. The Vintera 260 Stratocaster is going
slide
through.
now.
It's going through. Right, so we've got our 5 finalists. They're all winners in their way. Amazing guitars, and even the ones they beat were really good guitars. So, you know, hey, this is a bit of fun really, but we're trying to get towards the final winner. So let's look at the runners and riders. We've got our Vintera 2 60s Stratocaster, which at about $1,000 is by far the cheapest of the guitars that made it through to the finals.
We've got value.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. We've got 64 Sparkle Finish, incredible guitar. 1970 Lake Placid Blue with a big headstock. And finally, Neville Martin's 1960 spec Fiesta Red custom shop. So, I mean, we've got the whole spread of Fender production there, really, haven't we? It's interesting we've arrived at that.
And also we've got the Daphne Blue.
And the nearly left out one of the most exciting of all, the 61 Daphne Blue refinish. So, there we go. That's 5. You can obviously tell I didn't pass maths at school. So, what we're going to try and do is get it down to two absolute finalists, and then we'll have a last playoff on that. So we'll have a little bit of a quick knockabout discussion, see if we can get it down to 2. Guys, where to start? I mean, let's start with the 260s ones, because we'll go like for like. I'm going to pick this one up.
Nevs and the 61?
The Nevs and the 61, and let's throw the 64 into the mix as well.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Boy, that one we all said was the most warm, but
yes.
and the kind of, I don't know, the biggest sounding in some ways.
Yeah, really rich in the mids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, arguably, one observation that occurred to me is that in a band mix, this might not cut through.
It's definitely the darkest Strat that we played today. Yeah. It's definitely on the darker end of the spectrum.
Which I know that we both really like as well, but this was very dark, isn't it?
I think for me personally, it's probably on a bit too dark. Because I don't like bright Strats. I like them to be sort of, full sounding. But yeah, you can go a bit too far the wrong way. And that it's a great sounding Strat, but like you say, in a band mix, it might just be a bit too dark to sort of cut through.
I think I would go with that because, I mean, this is 61, so only 3 years apart. But when we talk about having all of the virtues of a Strat, it's got the warmth, it's got the snap, it isn't all down in the low end. It's kind of what everybody thinks of as that 60s Strat sound to me. So to me, I would say if it were just these two, I would go for this one. I don't know if you concur.
Yeah, I do. Actually, another thing I like about that one is the way the fret ends are dressed on it. You've got a sort of slightly wider playing surface.
Yeah.
Slightly harder comparison would be between this one. If we say, okay, let's set that to one side, great guitar, but not going to go through to the final of finals. Nevs versus this. I mean, considering one is the absolute real McCoy, and the other is just a very nice kind of custom reissue. Boy, there is not that much between them. Nevs is a really nice guitar.
Yeah, I mean, he knew what he wanted when he spec that, and they custom ordered it, didn't he? So, I mean, he knew what he wanted, and I got some good advice by the sound of it as well, because that really does have some of the qualities of the older guitars, doesn't it, in terms of the warm mids, the resonance. I'm
a bit stuck between those two. What do you think, Aynsley? Do you want to...
I mean, I suppose there's in terms of, as an instrument, you can judge them, they're really close, but in terms of realistically using them and owning them, it's a world apart, isn't it? In terms of the value and that sort of thing. But if we're literally looking at it as an instrument, this red one of Neville's kind of does what that does. That's probably got more character, I think, a bit more woodiness to it, if I remember. That's a bit hotter, probably. It's a tough one.
Slightly more high end, I think, on the top strings, which may or may not be the pickup adjustment, but yeah.
I mean, I think I would probably, well, maybe it's a really obvious thing to say, but I think out of the two, that would edge it for me. Because again, it's got that old vibey thing to it, and it feels played in, and it's got that slightly more characterful sound. But it's close.
In that case, let's put Nevs to one side. We're not going to say knock it out just this second because we've got two more to talk about. Right. Undoubtedly, this one seems to be still leading the pack for the moment. Surprisingly, let's talk about the Vintera Series 2. I mean, because it's done really well to get into
and
this
that's
kind
a
of company.
60s based vibe with it, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's a terrific guitar. Actually.
It's a really nice guitar. It costs £1,000. Realistically, in the real world of people with real money, that would be the one most people would buy because of the bang for buck is out of this world. When okay, in this company, if we're in imaginary land now, we're in magic playtime, where we can choose any of these. But the reality is finding £1,000 is a lot of money for most people. It's not a trivial sum of money. But for £1,000, I think that buys you a hell of a lot of Strat.
Absolutely. The only thing I'd change probably is the pickguard.
Yeah,
it kind of does everything you need it to do.
But I am going to say, and this is trying to put the executioner's cap on here, I still think that if it was a choice between Nev's red Strat and that, and money was no object, and let's just set that aside. I know money is a big deal and it is an important thing in people's lives, so we're not trying to be, elitist. But if we were just saying on pure vibe and sound, I think I probably would choose Nev's one just because it's got...
I think I would choose Nev's over that one.
Yeah.
But I think, certainly for the price difference, I think that does everything you need it to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with it.
Yeah, me too.
I suppose this is just this one's just a bit nicer.
And it reminds me a bit of Gary Moore's and all that kind of thing.
It's a technical term. I think, I can say right now that on value, that one's just beaten everything else out of the ring.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And I think we will let it have that gold medal for that and just sounding like a great guitar. But if we're in pure fantasy land here, fantasy football league type stuff, I think I would go for Nev's, and I think personally I would go for Nev's slightly controversially over the 64 just because of that. It's a bit more balanced and it's in that kind of
This is really
I would take Nev's over that one.
Yeah.
I think that's a great guitar. It looks super cool with that blue sparkle finish, and it's got a lot of coolness about it. But I think it is a bit on the dark side for me. So I think it's got a sound, but it's probably not anywhere near as versatile as that. Neville's or the Vintera.
I would agree.
Yeah. And
Awesome
of course,
guitar.
with Nev's being newer, then it wouldn't be sort of against the law to chop and change some components just to trim it. Whereas with this, I'd feel like I was messing with history.
A bit too much. So let's talk about Aynsley's 70 for the first time. Listening to you playing that now, I really, really enjoyed how characterful it was. It's a really sassy guitar. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's got some character.
I mean, I feel like I should say less with this one because again I'm biased because I bought this because I like it. It really kind of appealed to me.
Well, I agree. I thought flicking down to the bridge pickup, which we talked about earlier as being a real kind of moment when you're trying out a Strat. I thought it sounded fantastic. It has all the characteristics that you want. It has that weight to it. I know it's detuned, but even so, I think that it still has that great sound to it. And that's with the pressed steel saddles, isn't it, as well? So
which I love. Well, I tell you what I also love is just the look of it. I mean, this is not, 60s, vintage 60s Strats are very, very expensive things. 70s Strats are going up in value, make no doubt, especially nearer the 1970 mark. They've gone up a lot. But boy, does that feel like a lot of vintage guitar for what you could still get it for, which is not 60s Strat money.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's still got, really, apart from the obvious visual difference of it's got the big headstock, it's still got a 4-bolt neck.
Oh, yes.
It's still got the same
Yeah.
It's the same guitar as the 60s ones, or certainly the componentry is. I think the pickups are slightly different. They're weaker than the earlier ones. But again, they're all different as well. So it's.
I really like that guitar. So I'm going to say that the last piece of the puzzle to figure out is where this. Did we talk about this versus Neville's Strat yet? Did we do that? I can't remember.
No, I don't think we have.
All right then, shall we do that thing?
And I think they're very different.
Yeah.
I might want to use Nevs for something a little bit more traditional. I don't know. I feel that one's got a certain. I'm probably thinking of Richie Blackmore as well, but that's got a real depth to it.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Yeah, I'm not actually getting anywhere with my thought
Do you mind if I take a run at the casting vote here? I'm going to say I love the contrast between these two. I think Nev's guitar is absolutely amazing, but Nev already owns it, so he won't feel bad if we say I think the two finalists should be the two blues, Aynsley 70 and this 61 refin. How do you feel about that?
I think if push came to shove, I would. If I had to walk away with one Strat, I certainly won't be leaving without this.
Yeah.
And I think the other one I would take with me would be that one. Because they are, I suppose, just good examples of you hear about pre-CBS Strats, early 60s Strats, and that to me sounds like everything that you would imagine it to.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't really know what the sound of one of these is supposed to be. I suppose a bit lower output, a bit more jangly, which this isn't. So I don't know.
Figure.
It's hard to explain, but yeah, I think probably go for these. Yeah.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't leave without this.
I absolutely get that. I love Nev's Strat, but that's kind of yes, they do similar jobs, but money's no object, right? So go for the old one.
Right, I'm going to say, guys, let's plug these two in then. These are our, again, this is a bit of fun. We're not claiming any massive objectivity here. This is all very subjective. But given that we've had a good chat through it, let's plug these two in. You two guys, you two are on fire playing at the moment, so I'm going to let you two demo these two, and we'll try and pick an ultimate winner.
I'll do either way round.
Okay. We're playing very expensive musical chairs here, aren't we? All right, here we are. For the win, we'll have a playthrough and then a little chat, and we'll pick one as our anointed king of the Stratocasters.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so 61 Daphne Blue, 1970 Lake Placid Blue, 2 eras of Fender, both amazing guitars. I would be very, very happy to own either of these. Aynsley does own one of them, so he's a lucky boy.
So he's happy.
I don't know. I mean, as with all these things, there aren't really winners. It is an artificial construct to say there's a best Strat, but because they are very different. But I don't know, if we have to crown one, what are we going to say?
I'm going to stay out of this for the moment. Because obviously I already own one of them.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Richard?
It's tricky.
I would say, here's what I think, just to kick off, that if what you wanted was the dead centre, absolute kind of idea, everybody's idea of a really, really sorted Strat that is for the modern era of playing, by which when I say modern era, I mean, the era of big bends and sort of, blues rock and everything after. The 61 Daphne Blue feels like that guitar. It is the guitar of most
it's
players'
quintessential
dreams.
kind of like...
Quintessential is a good word.
When you think of... It's like, I think I mentioned earlier that when you think of, a great sounding pre-CBS Strat, that's it.
Yeah.
It's kind of got
it
it
is.
all. It looked cool. It plays lovely. It's been played. It's been, it's obviously done its fair share of gigs and stuff.
And it's neither mega, wild and bright like the 56, nor is it as kind of bassy and warm, dare I say it,
As the 64.
as the 64.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the Goldilocks one of the
Or middle ground. Yeah,
of the
just
vintage
right.
ones.
Yeah, of course.
So, but what I'm going to say about this one is just character. It cuts through. It sounds amazing. It's got bags of attitude. It's really sassy. It has clarity. It also has its warmth. I think it's just a brilliant guitar. And Aynsley, of course, makes it sound amazing, really amazing. So, hey, I'm not going to say that's a loser because it definitely ain't. But I don't know. What do you reckon, Aynsley? We're going to put you in
You can't put
the
this
possible position here.
Can I have both? I don't know. I mean, if it's down to
exactly what you mean.
If it has to be one, I mean, for me, maybe it's because it's my guitar set up for me. I feel most at home on this one.
Yeah.
But that if I was looking for a pre-CBS Strat, I would that would make me very, very happy.
Yeah. I think, and I hope this isn't copying out. I think basically that's how I feel about it as well. I think that we are comparing at this stage apples and pears. I think if nothing else, this shootout has shown how different within one body shape the sounds and characteristics of a design can be, which is really testament to Leo's sort of the breadth of Leo's genius with it, really, and everybody else who worked on the Strat. I think. Do you know what? In the kind of, if you were after the quintessential Strat and money was no object, I'd pick that one. But for in most purposes. And in the real world, where you could, put by some money and get a guitar like that, I think it's the 70. I'm going to say the 70 not because it's better. I think we're beyond better and worse here.
It's just different. They're all different.
we are.
And I think
it's different, isn't it?
Coming back to earth just a little bit, I think you could own one of these. People could own one of these still, even though they're going up in price. I don't know how many people could realistically, even a refin, own one of those.
I agree. I mean, absolutely lovely guitar. Love it.
It's
and
incredible.
I love the fact that Nev said about Gary Moore's Strat and the neck, and that this has got that, and that maybe these weren't made so very far apart, and that's a great thing. But my own, I don't know, maybe it's my age when I grew up and what I saw hanging on music shop walls and everything. I look at Aynsley's Lake Placid Blue and go, oh yes. And when I played it and heard the bridge pickup and everything,
The bridge pickup was stonking, wasn't it?
I'm leaning that way as well. It's difficult because this isn't a better worse, is it? This is just.
I don't think we can really say that. I think. Do you know what, Aynsley? This is in what must look like a complete bung to you. I think, but it's not really. I think we're gonna call the 70 because I think if you look at it in the round, if you take some real world perspective into it, I think the 70 is the one that people could get their hands on.
It's got all that vibe, that vintage vibe, and the wear and tear, and the character, and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't feel as fragile.
That's a really good point. It's got vintage character, and yet the vintage price tag is considerably lower. It's not nothing, that's for sure. They're becoming valuable.
70 Strat, wow. Yeah.
But I'm going to say I think we should when everything is taken into consideration, and because we kind of have to pick a winner because that's how these things work, I think I'm going to go with your 70 Aynsley.
Okay.
That's cool. I'll second that then.
All right then.
Yeah.
All right, I agree. The thing is, I do take this out and gig it, and obviously I don't leave it lying around anywhere. But again, value terms, it's not the pre-CBS sort of prices, so it's I can be less precious about it.
Yeah.
And use it.
That said, I mean, this was lent to us by a private collector via Vintage and Rare Guitars, who kindly sort of facilitated that today. I mean, if we're in dreamland territory, boy, nobody would object to that.
I mean,
That's
I
a hell
haven't
of a
played dozens of
Yeah.
pre-CBS Strats, but played a few at this point, and this is right up there. This is superb.
would agree.
It's one of the best, definitely one of the better ones I've played.
Yeah.
I mean, even acoustically, when we first brought it in, it's like it's just loud and resonant. You're like you just play, you play it, and straight away you're like, this is a lively guitar. So
Yeah, it is.
It's got a good starting point before you plug it in.
Kind of feel it when I hold it up against me. I feel it coming through the body. And
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
All right then. Well, I think we're going to park it there with a worthy real world winner of the 70 and Dreamland, of course. As it goes.
I mean, who wouldn't want this?
That's
really,
a dream guitar.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks very much for watching. Thanks to Aynsley and to Richard and to Nev, who's might even be gigging as we speak. I hope you've enjoyed watching. If you have, smash the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll be back with another shootout. Tell us what you'd like to see in the next shootout. Tellies, SGs, 335s. We'll have a go at them all if you fancy it. So do let us know in the comments. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Jamie. This is Aynsley Lister and Richard Barrett. Bonsoir.